The main topic of conversation, and I can see the inbox, it's got lots of you talking already. We've been tinkering around the edges. We've been looking at some of the details that may or may not be included. Well, today we know those details. The Strategic Defence Review has been revealed, and basically it's telling us that Britain needs to be battle ready, on a war footing. You've just been hearing at the top of the show. All of us citizens need to be ready to essentially play our part. Joining me now, I'm pleased to say, is Alistair Carns, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Veterans and People. Good evening to you. A very interesting read, this document today. 62 recommendations, all of which apparently will be accepted by this government. But the key question overriding all of this is all of these authors say it needs a 3% commitment in spending. When will this government commit to that 3%?
I think, first of all, before we get into the detail, it's worth just stepping back. I spent 24 years in the military in quite specialist elements and sort of had insight into everything. And I don't think I can remember a period of time that has been so geopolitically fractious or fragile. So I think the Strategic Defence Review is exceptionally well timed. We've been really clear. We put in excess of £5 billion into this year into defence. By 2027, that will go up to 13 billion. And then we've also said that it can be delivered to move to 3% by the next Parliament.
So when in the next Parliament? Because I've been listening to John Healey. He's been responding in different interviews today, and he seems to be changing his position. I've heard him say that it's going to be ready at the start of the next Parliament. Then it's become a lot more vague. So when can we expect that to happen?
Yeah, so I think both the Defence Secretary and the Prime Minister have said it can be delivered in the next Parliament. That gives us a really good aiming target. The reality
I know that,
is
but I'm asking you when in the next Parliament? At the start, towards the end?
I can't give you that detail just now. What I'm saying is it will be delivered in the next Parliament, which is a fantastic statement. I mean, let's just face facts. The last 14 years, as an individual who was in uniform for a long time, I didn't see any defence increase in spending. In fact, we saw cuts and cuts. We saw morale at its lowest level. We saw defence housing with no real investment. And now, within 10 months, we've seen a huge increase in defence spending of £5 billion within a year, 2.5% in 27. That's an extra £13 billion. And we've seen some great announcements today, in particular, and I know GB News is really popular with some of those individuals in uniform. We're seeing £1.5 billion going into housing to improve housing standards across the housing estate, which is fantastic. And that's just one of the announcements. There's much more to come.
Yeah, and obviously respect to you for the service that you've given to this country, and I share your concerns, actually. The way that we've treated some of our veterans and serving personnel, especially the conditions we expect them to live in, is absolutely shameful. So I completely am on your page when it comes to that. We talk then also in this review about getting young people involved, reconnected with the military, because, of course, the ones that had compulsory service, that generation, very sadly, is very rarely now among us. Why, if someone's watching this and they've got a young son, or they might be fighting age themselves, tell them, why do you think that they should risk their child's life to fight for this country?
So first of all, I think it's not as black and white as that. When I joined the military at 19, pretty much straight out of school, it put me on the straight and narrow. It provided me a fantastic set of boundaries, ambition, a sense of adventure, camaraderie, and also a sense of service where I was giving back to society and the nation. I think that's something that a lot of people can do. I don't think they need to at the moment. And I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. But what the Defence Review does say is we need to look at a whole of society approach. And that's really about taking defence and connecting it back to society, where perhaps it's drifted due to Northern Ireland, but also because that national service generation has moved away. And so that looks like everything from a 30% increase in our cadet forces to increasing our strategic reserve, looking at our reserve forces, and of course, over the next Parliament or so, looking to increase some of the numbers within defence. But really importantly is making sure the population understand the threats that we're facing collectively and individually as a nation. And that's some of the impacts, for example, of the Ukraine conflict and how that affects us here in the UK.
And do you think it is? Because, I mean, when you listen to the language that's coming out today, many people watching this actually might be a little bit afraid. They might be starting to think quite anxiously, are we literally about to start getting bombs dropped on our head or something? And if the threat is so severe that it's upon us today and we all need to be preparing ourselves and all the rest of it, why then is it a 10-year plan?
So what I would say is that this country this government takes defence and security exceptionally seriously. We must remember that we are part of NATO. NATO is the most effective defensive alliance in history. And as being part of that, we have a security guarantee. What this defence review is really saying that we must increase our industrial capacity to give the men and women of our armed forces the best kit and equipment to deter our enemy and hopefully reduce the chances of conflict. A strong military reduces the chance of conflict overall. But if indeed we're called to crisis or there is an issue where we need to fight, then we must be prepared to do so.
Sir Lindsay Hoyle, he said, and I quote, that your government should be ashamed of itself today. He's suggesting that you have potentially breached the ministerial code because you briefed the media and apparently some defence companies about your plans before you'd even put them in front of the House. What do you say to that?
So we gave the opposition spokesperson the SDR an hour before this statement took place. We've been really clear on that. It's open, and there'll be a lot of cross-party work to deliver everything from enhancement to our continuous at sea nuclear deterrent all the way through to, for example, working with the Department of Education to ensure our armed forces are included within, our education system.
We talk a lot about defence, and I'm listening to what you're saying and how important and strategic the defence of the country is. Do you regard the channel crossings as a risk to national security?
So what I would say, and this is really interesting, so if we again step back a little bit, what has this government done? It's taken money out of the development budget, which is spending tax-paying money overseas, to pump prime it into the United Kingdom, into defence industry, to create jobs for the UK, whilst also equipping our armed forces. And I think that's the most critical part when we try and look at different parts of government. Yeah. It's about taking money that was once going overseas to other countries to actually putting it back into the tax-paying person's pocket by providing over 30,000 jobs. But that's really interesting, but that's not my question, though, is it? My question was quite clear. Do you think that all of these unvetted military-age men pouring into this country on a daily basis across the Channel is a risk to national security? Yeah, so I've had this question before. Interestingly, in the military, several years ago, I worked on some of the potential military solutions for cross-channel crossings, and it's just not as simple. The solution is not as simple as some people think it is. It's a multifaceted approach that requires a diplomatic engagement with Europe and France in particular. It requires stiff regulations and rules about individuals coming into the country to ensure that we keep both Britain safe, but also make sure that migration in the right way is positively enhanced to ensure that our country is in a good place.
Sure. But my question is, do you think that these channel crossings are a risk to national security?
So I think any illegal entry into the UK is illegal and should be stopped.
That's not my question. I'll try for a fourth time. Do you think that these channel crossings are a risk to national security?
So I think if those individuals in one way, shape or form are of a threat to the country, then yes. So I think there needs to be a correct vetting in place when the individuals come in. But I've been really clear, if someone's breaking the law coming into this country, then it should be treated in accordance with the law.
Right, so we both do kind of agree that this is a risk to national security. But if we're not policing that, we're not even able to defend our border on the most simplistic way of this channel, and we've now got crossings up 40% plus, why should my viewers then feel optimistic that if we can't even defend the channel, that you can actually defend the country?
I would think comparing the two threats, if you were to categorise them in that way, shape or form, of individuals coming across in rubber dinghies to Russian subsurface nuclear capability, Russian nuclear capability, strategic bomber fleets, and 2,000 casualties a day in Ukraine, with tank battles on the edge of Europe with North Korean troops fighting against Ukrainians, I think would be the wrong comparison to make and indeed skew the argument.
Interesting. Al Carns, the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Veterans and People, thank you for your time.